just breathe.
Yes.
Just breathe.
And with that you would...
Within 10 minutes, endorphins come, dopamine will come. You will start to relax because these chemicals are being made by you, yourself.
All right, so this is session 2 with Arno, Arno Veen, or Arno Pranayama as he is known in the Netherlands. And Arno was telling us about the way he got started 30 years ago, or nearly 30 years ago, in his yogic breath journey, if we can call it that. What brought him there, and also telling us a little bit about the conscious connected breathing, or what you also call the rebirth.
Rebirthing, circular breathing.
And we were talking about
oceanic breath.
Oceanic breath, indeed. And well, I've given it a try, and I can attest to its effectiveness and its power, and its ability to take us to states of mind that are probably not available to us in daily life. I've never been somebody to take drugs, but I can well imagine that these are the kind of things and the kind of reasons why people do drugs, because it allows you to experience things that are not, let's say, not in the scope of just beta brainwave regular living mode, so to speak. In carrying on with this, we closed our previous session talking about how the breath method was, on the one hand, very scientific, as many of the yogic method or techniques are, several of them, but also how subtle it could be.
Yeah.
We said, well, subtle changes can make for big differences in the way our emotions are treated.
Yeah. I mean, people think that they are, for example, so I guide people in their inhale, I guide them in their exhales, I guide them in the transition between inhale and exhale, and I guide them in the transition between exhale and inhale. Those 4 parts I'm looking at always. And sometimes they think they are really relaxing and letting go and letting flow on the exhale, but actually they're pushing on the exhale. These are unconscious. Yeah. Well, it would have been me as well. It would have been most people, because in the previous session I said, oh, now I lost it. Well, it doesn't matter. I said that we are so uber controlled, so we're not really letting go. So I find it very important that people learn to exhale in a let go. Yeah, what does that mean? Well, that is something to explore in a duration of in a sequence of a couple of sessions. You cannot, well, you can let go a lot in your very first session. It happens. People start to cry, like 1/3 to half of the workshop class is often shedding quite some tears.
Yes.
And this is a relief for the people, they've been holding on to things,
that's right,
to many things for years and years and years, sometimes from childhood.
Yeah.
So what happens when we inhale a lot, how to say it? Sometimes I'm looking for my English words.
If you say it in Dutch, I might.
Yeah.
I might be able to translate on the fly.
Dan voegen we toe. Then we.
To add.
Then we add a lot of extra energy on our full inhales. Yeah. In the workshops, in the rebirthing breath.
Yes.
A lot of extra inhale, a lot of extra pranayama, which is a lot of extra life force, which is a lot of extra energy.
Yes.
And this energy is flowing around and around through you and leaves you again at some point or not, but it is getting more and more when you're in a breathing session. And so what happens is this energy starts to push against your energy blocks and against your physical blocks.
Yes.
I mean, there's not really a a clear border where the energy stops, the energy body stops, and the physical body starts.
Yeah.
It's one, and this you feel when you're in a breathing
Very
session.
much so.
Yeah. So a lot of energy flowing through you, starting to push against these dams that you've put there, because these dams that you've put there, they were to prevent you from an expression which might have been too much for other people or for yourself. So, and sometimes just a little change in your exhale, or even on your inhale, or a little more connected breathing, because the holding of the breath is the pattern of stopping all flow. So I make adjustments on the inhale, on the transition, on the exhale, on the transition, on the inhale, and so forth and so on. So little detailed, subtle changes can make...
They trigger a certain release of...
They can make the release happen.
Okay, you mentioned also, I pick out on things that you say that I find interesting,
yes,
worth explaining
yes.
further, because I also noticed that the more I've gotten into reading about these things or talking about them, I take certain things for granted. For example, this idea that mental or emotional blockages are stored in the body as much as they are stored in the head. And what you were mentioning is that we have a physical body, but also an energetic body.
Yeah.
I must confess to you, a year ago, this would have sounded like complete nonsense to me. Having experienced a little bit of the energetic body, I can attest it's real.
It's
okay?
true.
It's there.
True.
It's there. You may just not have felt it yet. But what is interesting is that part of the pranayama journey seems to be this idea of indeed playing with the prana or the energy in your body as a way to release blockages that are in your system as a whole, and that doing so and releasing them in the body sometimes is easier than releasing them directly in the mind through logic or through let's say therapy or things of this kind.
Well, the mind is basically effed up. Yeah.
Right.
To say it in a nice way, maybe.
Right.
The mind is, we are thinking 40 to 60,000 thoughts daily. 40 plus another 3 zeros, or 60 plus another 3 zeros, yeah? So there's a lot of thoughts, of which only a few, a couple of hundred, you're very aware of. You know, you consciously speak, or you consciously think them. It's a chaos in the mind.
Right.
It's really a chaos. And some Zen masters, but also my own master, my guru, Osho, he said the mind is like a drunken monkey. It jumps from branch to branch to branch. There's no alignment. There's no purpose. There's just chaos. So to think that you can solve your problems just with your mind, I don't think it's going to work.
Well, in essence, they were created at that level, so you can't solve them at that level. Like
Osho says the mind is the root cause of all problems.
Right.
So
the thinking.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. And so I've been educated. Once I started on this rebirthing journey, I've been educated in breath work, which is a kind of body work.
Yes.
Because the breath is happening a lot in the physical body, but also in the energy body. The breath is also reaching the emotional body, very much so, and the breath is also reaching the mental body. The breath is the etheric part, you know, and it brings oneness to all those bodies. You start in your sequence of breath sessions, you start to recreate your wholeness again, or uncover your wholeness again, because you've never been not whole, but you've been separating all parts of yourself. So the breath will help you to find the harmony between all bodies, between all parts of yourself, and that is so beautiful. I want to say so many things, but
there are many things to say.
Yeah.
Well, so I find that also quite interesting. How important is the breath? Well, it is so important that out of the 8 limbs of the Ashtanga yoga path, there's two limbs that are that deal with the physical body, postures or asanas being one, and the breath being the other one. Essentially, that's how important it is, right? It is one of the 8 limbs of yoga.
Yes.
And
it is a higher limb, I have to say. If we talk about lower and higher, it is one step up the ladder in the limbs of yoga. I mean, we practice them all, you know, in a mix, all 8 limbs,
yes,
and you should do that.
Yeah.
But also there is a kind of hierarchy, a kind of lower and higher, and
certainly postures would not be at the highest.
Not at all, but very necessary.
Yes.
And Osho also said, you know, you have to start your journey basically on the physical level. First, you become aware of your body. This is what you need to be doing. Yeah. So this is what the asanas are for, and the asanas are slowly opening the muscles and the tissues and everything, and creating space between all these tissues so energy can flow better, and it is preparing you for the next step, which is pranayama. Pranayama is also partly physical, but it is basically happening in the pranic body, the energy body,
yes,
which is very much related, but I like to separate it from the emotional body. And then the mental body. But yeah, so what happens these days is that people go to yoga, as they say, once a week, or you know, maybe even twice a week or more often, and they say, I practice yoga. I need to say this because I say it also in my yoga classes. Look, you are not practicing yoga, you are practicing yoga asana. Or yogasana, as they say, or asana. Yeah, and a lot of yoga schools are actually asana schools.
Yes,
you know, as you say, there are 8 limbs. If a yoga school or yoga studio brings all these limbs in, great, then it's a yoga school. If you, as a practitioner, you know, study all the limbs, then you're a yogi, full on.
right. Yeah. Then I can't claim to be just there yet. There's a few limbs that
maybe
are
I can also not.
a little too difficult. Starting with the lovely pastries that we had for breakfast today, which there goes my non-covetousness, I have to say. So this is also interesting because you're talking about now
And the coffee.
and the coffee, very much so. So there's
We like to be naughty. I like to be a naughty yogi. I do not like to be a very holy. Oh, I'm so
very serious,
so pure, and I'm so holy, and I live perfectly. No, that does not exist. I like to be natural. I mean, Osho is my guru. He's also known as the sex guru, but he's the guru of the gurus, the master of masters. He took everything into the whole equation. You know, I like my coffee every now and then. I like my steak every now and then.
right?
I like everything.
Yeah, and most people would, or let's say some people who start to take this very seriously, they start to deprive themselves.
You become
of a lot of
very rigid. A lot of yogis are very rigid. This is also not good. Just be open for everything, and yeah.
Let's talk about let's talk about this whole idea of the pranic body. This might be a topic that is already on the deep end compared to what I've been discussing on the channel. So we're now going into a little bit more esoteric, let's say.
You've been talking with other people about this, yeah?
I've talked about a certain energy topics with other people, but
and
I don't think.
What came up?
Nah, this is the point. That's why I brought you in. I don't think any of them are as knowledgeable as you are. So this is almost like a self-interested question I'm asking, which is to try to describe for us the pranic body. And also one of the reasons I'm asking is I've noticed, and I have been practicing a little bit of circular breathing in the past few days or weeks, and I've noticed that when I do it as a physical practice, it takes a long time for that energy to build up, but when I start to really move the energy together with the breath, the energy goes up immediately, and it goes up very high, and it doesn't take that much physical effort to bring it there. which I find very interesting actually. So how would you describe the pranic body for those of us who are maybe less familiar with it, that understand it only on a superficial level for now?
Wow.
That's a difficult question.
Maybe. Well, the question is easy to ask, but it's difficult to answer. Well, the energy body is the energy body. In Qigong, we say that existence is built up of 3 building blocks. It's matter, dense matter, yeah? And it is energy, which is undense matter, let's say. It is very transparent.
Yeah.
You cannot grab it, but it is there. It's fluid. And there is information. Matter, energy, information. Information is the thoughts that you think, the intentions that you have, the focus and the purpose that you have, the books that you read, the movies that you watch, everything, the discussions that you have. That's all information, yeah?
So information is kind of the one that organizes matter or energy, for example.
Well, they all influence each other.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They all influence each other. And so, yeah, energy is the more etheric state of matter, and information is, again, a different state. But it all is densing down into the matter, into your physical body. So the physical body is a manifestation of the information and the energy, I would say.
I see. And from an experiential perspective, I can only speak from what I've felt. It has different manifestations, right? So it could feel, energy can feel as pressure or heat or vibration or tingling.
During a session, yes.
I've also
even
felt
as cold.
Yes, I have felt sometimes currents of electricity running through.
Right.
So the way it feels as if you were grabbing a battery, you know.
Yeah,
You remember those square batteries you used to put on your tongue? And it had a certain tingling to it, so it feels literally like electromagnetism
you can feel it
running
over
through
the whole body.
Yes.
During a session.
Could it be as simple as electromagnetism running through, or do you think that it is also something else on top?
Well, that is very beautiful that you say it. I mean, I follow also some YouTube channels, and I see this is much more information on these channels now about the electricity that existence is. Yeah. And yeah, we're very electric. We're electrochemical.
Yes.
Electrochemical.
And the breath, of course, goes to the very essence of this. It's
Both.
one of the ways that you can use to manipulate your chemistry and your electricity.
Yes. So let's talk about the chemistry of the breath a little bit.
Yes.
Because when you have this hyperventilation or subventilation, then the body has a continuous lack of energy actually, and the brain is registering all this, and it says, there's an emergency situation here. Let me give you some stress hormones. So you start to make different hormones.
So that you can deal with the situation.
So you can deal with the situation. Adrenaline, cortisol.
Yes.
But we are not, we're in a very strange society with all the stresses and all the deadlines and everything. So it's very difficult for us to really deal with the situation.
Some of them are very ambiguous situations to deal with. So you have these generalized stress, but you don't know exactly what it is about.
No, in the early days you would fight a lion who would attack you, or another tribe who would attack you.
And either you would kill the lion or the lion would kill you, but that would be the end of it.
That's the end of the stress.
Right.
One way or
but
another.
now it's this ongoing...
There's nothing to that we can really do.
No, you have 1,000 different
You have
pressures.
a pile of things that you have to do on your desk at your job, and once you work it away, it's piled up again for the next week,
That's
so
right.
there's no way to deal with the stress. So sports is good. We need physical movement. But what I wanted to say, so
we're
when
going
you
to
have
the
this,
chemical. Yes.
yeah, the chemicals. So these stress hormones, they affect your breathing. So the breathing affects the stress hormones. The stress hormones affect the breathing. They make you breathe even more in the emergency way, which is using the secondary or the stress muscles to breathe. A little bit of extra breath.
Yes.
but we don't have the deep diaphragmatic breath. So you get into the stress circle. Yeah. Once you start deep, full, rhythmic breathing, then the body gets enough oxygen, it gets enough release of oxygen, so it gets also enough carbon dioxide, enough release, enough intake, enough release, nice rhythm, good enough prana, life force. And then the mind, I should say the brain is registering this, and it says, oh, that's great, you're in a relaxed state. Oh, I will give you some natural relax hormones. Yeah, natural happiness hormones. You get dopamine, you get endorphins.
Yes.
Yeah, and all kinds of, I don't know all these names. I'm not too scientific. A little I have to do in these days.
Yes.
But yeah, so, and then these endorphins and this dopamine also helps you to relax even deeper. So, and this people will feel after about 5 or 10 minutes of doing the rebirthing breathing. And then they start to relax. So this is the chemical part. The electrical part is more the pranic part,
Yes.
I guess. Yeah, it's the energy part. And so the tingling sensations that you were talking about, yeah, I think we are very electric. David Icke talked about this because we are like a battery, yeah?
Yes.
Maybe you remember at school that there was this, at physics, there was this thing that the teacher did with a lemon. To put 2 electrodes on a lemon and make a light bulb burn.
Yes.
But this we can do also with ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes.
So we are electricity.
Would you say that in general that there's a positive and a negative, and they do seem to run from high to low, right? Within the body. So,
yes. And then the male, female have different
polarities.
Different polarities
Yes.
in the pelvis and in the chest.
I see.
Yeah.
And across the hands as well, apparently.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
You've said a number of very interesting things. I will try to unpack
Yeah,
a few of the
yeah,
things
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuck, because this is really interesting.
We need to go a little bit more into it, I guess.
So one of them is this idea of the shallow breath, and how that not only is what you do when you are stressed, but is the thing that stresses you in return. So there's a feedback loop going on there, which is it goes in both directions.
Yes.
Shallow breathing can stress you. Stress can make you breathe shallow.
Yes.
And the opposite
both
of that,
is true.
And both is true, and luckily it's true in the opposite sense as well, which is to say that extended full belly breathing can have the opposite effect on your physiology and your stress level.
But even more so. So this high breathing, this stressed breathing affects your mind. It affects certain centers in the brain. It is very difficult to think positive, relaxing thoughts when you're stressed.
Yes.
You may do your best in order to reduce the stress, but you cannot.
No.
You cannot just reach those parts.
So you can't. This is probably the most interesting thing that we've touched upon here, is to say that you can't talk your mind into relaxing or into going in a certain direction.
A little bit.
You can use your breath as a way to communicate to your mind that you are in a stressful or a relaxed situation. Yeah. And probably part of that has to do with the fact that the breath is one of those things that are controlled by the autonomic nervous system, but you can also take conscious control of it.
Exactly.
And therefore it's the bridge between the unconscious functions of your mind and your body and the conscious ones.
Exactly.
And that's why
the yogis been doing this for thousands of years, the shamans also,
right.
You know.
Absolutely. They have known the power of the breath in order to reach parts of your mind and communicate more directly with it.
And it is also much more easy for us to work with the breath instead of working with the brain. Because as I said, the brain, you think 40,000 to 60,000 thoughts, you know, there's so much. Just breathe.
Yes.
Just breathe.
And with that you would...
Within 10 minutes, endorphins come, dopamine will come. You will start to relax because these chemicals are being made by you, yourself. And when these chemicals are there, or these hormones I should say, in your body, then the mind will also relax. And as you know, when, I mean, the breath work is, in yoga, pranayama is a very important step towards meditation.
That's right.
Yeah, because once you rest, or focus, or rest, or both, focus and rest, your mind on the breath, once it is following the inhale, following the exhale, you know, once it is continuously with the breath, the mind, there's hardly any space for other thoughts to come in. So the mind starts to relax.
And in that state, you're open for change, more creative perhaps.
Then you can...
Your body is healing because you don't have all these stress hormones.
Your body is healing, yeah, is detoxing, is healing. Often people in breathing sessions, they have to go to the toilet. Yeah, the kidneys are... They start to detox immediately. The liver as well.
So there are distinct physiological effects that come from a certain pattern of breathing.
Yeah, we were actually talking about the pranic body, now we're talking again about the physical body. But first, people must become aware more of the physical sensations. Although some people have more natural tendency to be in contact with their energy body. Well, it's both, but in my sessions, and especially with yogis, I have to have them focus more on the energy body, which then with that I also mean the feelings.
Yes. Yeah.
And the emotions. Yeah, less on the physical. Because yogis are sometimes kind of perfectionists, and this withholds them from the full experience. Because when you're always busy with, am I doing it right? Am I doing it right? Oh, I should breathe a bit more there, a bit more like this, a bit more like that. You forget about what is actually really happening. Yeah. So at some point, first I teach them the full yogic breath, how to build it up, and then at some point I forget about everything.
Yes.
Just feel. Feel whatever sensations are happening. Like you said, then you connect more with the tinglings.
Indeed.
Then you can connect with the breath waves, the energy breath waves that come with the breath. Yeah. And then you just be with that and breathe with that and allow that, because we're not so much in a state of allowing at all. Like I said in the first session, we're uber controlled. But once you just are with whatever sensation is there, you embrace every sensation with your full loving kind awareness, and you breathe with it, then that is a kind of allowing. That is a deep acceptance, a deep allowing. And then these waves, this energy can do whatever it needs to do, whatever it wants to do. Not because you want it or you do it, no, it does you.
Yes.
It flows through you.
Yes.
It will heal you, and it will push out any repressed stuff that you have been storing in your body for decades.
Yes. So we're going to do the following. I'm going to pause this one. And in the next clip, we're definitely going to go into these.
We're going to do a bit of breathing technique.
And we're going to do some breathing technique
Maybe
together.
to start with it.
Absolutely.
I need to breathe.